Peter Welinder from Dropbox. Here he is. He's going to come on up here and talk about building a cloud-enabled home for all your memories. Peter, so happy to have you here. Welcome. There's your mic. There's a round of applause. I think I'm shrinking. You weren't this tall last time I saw you. Am I getting old? I mean, the answer is yes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, just like, this is just the way I am. People tend to see me as pretty tall. All right. Thanks, Evan. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for organizing this event. So my name is Peter. I'm from Dropbox, an engineer on the Dropbox Photos team. And some of you might be thinking, sort of, what does Dropbox care about photos? And to explain that, let me sort of start by telling you a small story about sort of my own relationship with photos and how it's changed over the last few years. Let's see if we can get this clicker to work. Oh, there we go. So this is a photo of me. I had just started university, and what you see there on my desk is my first laptop. And I had just bought it with some money that I saved up, and I was so excited about this thing because I could suddenly store all my photos and all my projects in my backpack, pretty much. And this was also around the same time as I got my first digital camera. And actually, all the photos I would take ended up on this laptop. Eventually, though, the laptop got old, and I replaced the old laptop with a new one. And every time I do that, I sort of start my life anew. You know, I'd sort of move all my new photos onto the new laptop, and I keep all the old photos on the old laptop. And then I get photos and videos and files through other sources like email and social networks and so on. Eventually, I got an external hard drive to try to keep it all organized and backed up. But that sort of just made the problem worse because it meant that I had ever more copies of my life scattered over ever more devices. So eventually, this just kind of turned into a mess. You know, there was so many scattered files, so many different devices, and this kind of general feeling of being overwhelmed. Now, okay, so I can't go back. There we go. So naturally, this is kind of the problem that Dropbox was built to solve. So it's a really kind of easy solution for solving this because you can just install Dropbox and move all your files into the Dropbox folder, and then they're all backed up and you can access them from everywhere. And with time, a lot of people have sort of realized this. So we've ended up with a lot of people's files on Dropbox. We now have over 300 million users spread over 200 different countries, and they're together syncing over 1 billion files per day. So, and if you look at your own kind of most important files, most of them turn out to be photos and videos. So in some way, we've ended up with, let's see, this clicker, let's work. We've ended up being this repository for millions of people's memories. And being this kind of shoebox of people's memories and just like keeping them backed up and secure, that's sort of one piece of solving this problem, but it's not all of it. And there's more to it. So what about the second piece? How can we sort of make these photos come alive? And for us, it sort of started with a pretty simple idea. And it was the idea that these photo galleries that we have on our phones, they're pretty cool. You know, they're really useful little tools. They're a bit like the photos that we used to keep in our wallets. You know, it's the photos that we have on top of our minds. It's recently taken photos and so on. And you know, it's really fast. It's really simple. We can show photos to a friend very easily and so on. But there's one big problem with these photo galleries, and it's the fact that it's sort of like life started the last time you got a new phone. You know, none of your old memories are there. You can't get to them. So we thought, you know, what if we can create a similarly simple experience, just as fast, just as simple, but it has all the photos you have ever taken. So we built this thing called Carousel. It's an app available on iOS or Android, and it lets you access all those photos that you have on your Dropbox. And it really becomes this timeline of all your memories, and you can access it from everywhere. You can keep it in your pocket, or you can view those memories from the palm of your hand. So just to give you one example here, this is sort of my own Carousel, and this is, all these photos are in Dropbox. They're not on the device, and yet I can do things with these photos. Like I can zoom in on them. I can view them in high resolution detail. I can browse through them. And the really cool thing is that since I have sort of all my photos in my Dropbox, I can use this scroller here with just a few swipes. I can get back many, many years back in my in my photo library and really relive those old memories. So that's a pretty powerful thing, because I no longer have to get home to plug in my external hard drive into my desktop to view those old memories. Instead, they're all right there in my pocket. So in some way, that's really cool. So now we have all those photos accessible, but there's still a long road ahead. And I thought, since there's a lot of sort of students, researchers, innovators, entrepreneurs here in the audience, I wanted to talk a little bit about the problems that people have around their photos today, once they have them all together, and sort of to tell you about those problems. They're sort of based on things like studies we made or analytics that we see amongst our users, or generally things we hear from our users. And the first one is a pretty big one, but it's one that's often neglected, and it's the problem around missing or corrupted metadata. So if you take a photo with a modern camera today, you have a piece of metadata called EXIF on it. And a lot of apps, including Carousel, uses this metadata to organize your photos by, say, time and location. Now, on Dropbox, people upload pretty much every photo they've ever taken from every device they've ever owned. So we end up with a lot of different photos. And so we see a lot of edge cases. We sort of see the trends of photos that people are uploading. And one big issue is that a lot of photos are still missing metadata. They don't have it, or it's corrupted. For example, people forget to set the time on their cameras, or they forget to switch the time when they're traveling time zones. It turns out GPS metadata is even worse. Just to give you one statistic here, out of the millions of photos that are uploaded to Dropbox every day, only 10% have GPS metadata. So 90% of the photos have no way of sort of organizing them by space. But the interesting thing is that there's a lot of cues in people's photos about where they were taken. For example, there's also seasonal cues, like what's the weather outside? Is it summer or is it winter? There are sort of landmarks you can use to figure out where a photo was taken. Then there are sort of cues in the subjects of the photos. For example, how the age or appearance of a family member changes throughout photos. And there's also other things like, birthday cakes or Christmas trees or pumpkins to sort of signify events or important holidays. So it's a really exciting opportunity for sort of machine learning and computer vision to use this information to sort of infer or correct this missing or corrupt metadata. And I think we need to do this in order for people to really deal with the photos they have today. We can talk a lot about what will happen in 5 years, but people are still stuck with all these old memories. And it's a sort of an interesting challenge to use the techniques we have today and the data sets we have today to solve these kind of problems. The second thing I'd like to talk about is, let's see if we can scroll forward here. All right. All right. So the second thing is about the kind of photos that people are taking today. People take, in the age of point and shoots, everything was pretty simple. You take your camera out of the closet every time you'd go on a vacation, then you document your vacation, and then when you got back home, you plug in that camera into your desktop, and you'd organize those files into folders, and life was pretty organized. All of that changed with camera phones. Now we take photos of everything. We still take photos of kind of vacations and trips, but we also take photos of other things, like these fun, spontaneous moments that we want to share with friends, or photos of products that we might want to buy at some point, or for whatever reason, the food that we're eating, or we might be using our phone as a scanner to scan those documents that we need to archive. And there are also these kind of ephemeral photos that we take them and we only want to remember them for a few hours, like where did I park my car when I went to do my errands in the city. So the problem is that all of these photos today, they end up on our photo rolls, and they're not organized at all. So how can we organize them? How can we make them indexable, searchable? What are the right interfaces for exploring all these photos? And this is a kind of a problem that gets worse with every day, because we're accumulating ever more photos through ever more devices, and it's still largely an unsolved problem. So that's the kind of challenges that we're working on at Dropbox when we deal with all of your photos that you've ever taken. And if you like working on that kind of problems, I'm going to sort of just do a small plug, then you should come and see me afterwards. Like, this is a problem that pretty much anybody with a camera have. So thank you.